Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com. This update is taken from the Local Marketing Source Professional Development Program for local marketers.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, bringing you our weekly local marketing industry update. Now, next week's LMS member call is going to be Wednesday, April 17th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And this week we've got a few updates, a couple of tips to cover for both a local internet marketing agency and a local business, which we're going to have first, and what's going on inside the Facebook group. But just as a quick overview of some of the items that we're going to be talking about today, which haven't quite come up on my notes here. I guess I hit the print button before I hit the save button. But we're going to talk a little bit about Google's Disavow link tool and the penalties and removing penalties with those and how those can impact your ranking in your website, and how Google, or Matt Cutts, goes on and explains why when a new page comes up you get higher rankings, and then over time those rankings tend to drop and get settled down, and what that is all about. And Facebook's new quote-unquote local search, it's not really that new, it's just rebranded from being called Facebook Nearby. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about Google's new dashboard. That was something that I introduced last week in Google Plus, and the changes from Places and the full integration into that. And finally, some mobile signals and discussion about mobile signals as to what's being viewed inside of local search and what signals are being watched. This week, for weekly tips, last week we talked about, well, we've been talking about videos. Last week was video number 2, and a few weeks ago I talked about 5 different videos a local business can create. Video number 1 being a testimonial video, video number 2 being a walkthrough video, and today video number 3 being a technical overview of your core product or service. Now, video 4 we talk about a commercial overview of your business. Now, a technical overview of the core product or the service. You could also talk about a commercial video that talks about certain benefits and whatnot. But when we're talking about something technical, this is the facts. This is a piece of communication that does not go out to a prospect, but it goes out to a lead. In other words, they already know a little bit about your business. They know about the company itself. They know about the services that you offer. And this is a short video that's going to discuss details of that product or that service. Now, of course, you'd like to have videos for all of your products and services if you could, but this ultimately is one that's going to cover your core product or your service, and it's one of your set of 5 videos that's relatively easy. Now, what do I mean by a technical video? Well, you don't need to get into a lot of animation. You don't need to get into movements or music or excitement. In fact, you don't even need a visual person on it, although that would help. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the software that you can use to be able to make this. And we use PowerPoint, Microsoft PowerPoint. Even though I'm on a Mac, I use PowerPoint. You could also use Keynote, I believe. And this just allows you to move slides and animate some text, add some certain pictures and whatnot. And you may want to create something that's 4 or 5 slides long, with an introductory slide that talks about the product itself, another slide that may be just a little bit about the business, and then an overview of that product or that service, and then some details on it. You may want to include a few testimonials, a video testimonial or a written testimonial is there, as well as user experiences. You can also get into a case study, and what a case study does is it talks about a before and after result of that product or service with a particular real live customer or consumer. Whether it be teeth whitening and their experiences for that, or working with a software company on how this new software has saved them X number of dollars or an X number of hours. And ultimately, in a case study, any product or service, it solves a problem. And people buy a product or service because they're solving a need or a problem that they've developed internally. The seller typically knows the problems that that product or service is going to solve. And in this technical video, you want to be able to answer all of those problems in the form of a benefit. Okay. PowerPoint, you can record some of the presentation on it. It's a little more sophisticated, but I use different software to capture my screen, and it's called screen capture software. I use a product called Camtasia. It's probably the most widely used product that's out there. There's some trial versions of it, I believe. It's a fantastic piece of software, but you'll also need some sort of screen capture software. And inside Camtasia also, you can also edit to a certain degree. Now, I do take my videos and then bring them into Final Cut Pro and edit in Final Cut Pro, but you absolutely do not need to go to that degree. Camtasia is a really, really good product to do editing in. All right, so what's going on inside the LMS member Facebook group this week? Kathryn has had a discussion, and she's asking a good question. And she brought up a term that I'd never heard before called spin tags. So I had to do a little bit of research. But right off the bat, hearing spin tags in the same sentence as article marketing, my red flags went up right away. Now, spinning an article, what spinning an article is you create a piece of content, you put it into a piece of software, and it changes certain words. Instead of saying dog, it may put in pooch or puppy. You know, instead of running, it may replace the word with jogging or whatnot. So it changes the general context of the article. And what that allows us to do as search engine optimizers is create one piece of content, put it into a certain piece of software, and end up with 10 or 15 pieces of content and not having to pay to get it rewritten. It really sounds like a great benefit. And a lot of search engine optimization people use it. I myself just completely against it, 100% against it. It does not add value to the internet. I mean, the whole idea of marketing is to create material that your audience is going to consume and then deliver that material in an area that they're going to consume it. Well, this idea here is to take one piece of content, make it into as many as possible, and then distribute it out to as many places as possible, and the theory is you're going to get the greatest exposure. Well, that's the old argument. Do you want quantity of exposure or quality of exposure? We're a quality-based firm. We promote quality-based content. We look at search engine optimization exactly like the definition of what marketing is. And the American Marketing Association says, not word for word, I guess I could pull it up. And why don't we do that? Why don't we look at it word for word? Then I'll tell you the definition, what I have for search engine optimization and how closely related they are. And so we can go to Google and type in marketing definition, and we get a listing for the American Marketing Association. And it says the following definition was approved by the American Marketing Association Board of Directors. Marketing is the activity, set of institutions, and process for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. In other words, it's saying marketing is the process of creating stuff. We talk about articles, videos, and images. It's the process of creating stuff that gets delivered, that has value, and it gets delivered to customers, clients, partners, and society. Well, we create articles and we deliver it to customers, prospects, clients, partners, and society. Well, if we're creating an article and delivering it to a website out in China, Are our customers going to be there? Our partners, our clients? Is our industry out there? No, none of that applies. So it's not creating an article and then sending it out to some sites that are out there that aren't going to be read by definition. That's not marketing. That's writing an article and sending it out there, but it's not marketing. You're not marketing a business. And so when we create an article, for example, or a piece of content and distribute it, whether it be a profile on, say, Yelp and content that's on there that discusses, and we put up video content, well, that's where our audience is going to reside. We provide value to them in particular ways. We provide access to the industry. Sorry about that. Okay. Just having a problem with my camera. The video is out right now, but we are still capturing all the audio. So we will just continue with that. You know, one thing I've learned is technology. I always have backups, and I'm always recording at least 2 different mics going now. We just know what it's like. See if this will record. Guess not. Oh well. Everyone can still hear me. Just talking about the definition of marketing, spin tags from Kathryn's comment, and article marketing. And so I didn't know what spin tags were, but when I heard the word spin and article marketing, it put up a red flag. It's just something I don't like. I figured this was not going to be something that I like. And what spin tags are is they're tags that you actually put into the article that in a particular sentence, you have a sentence that's, let's say it's 8 words long, and then on the word dog, you would put certain parentheses around it, and then put the options, the 3 different options for dog that you may want, you know, such as pooch. And these are tags that you ultimately put into that sentence to allow certain software to be able to pick and choose what words it's ultimately spinning. And her question was, you know, what are your thoughts on that? Well, I did go ahead and respond, but as you guys are clearly making out at this point in time, spinning articles does not create value. Now, you take a word, or you take a sentence, and in that sentence you figure out which adjectives you can go and find synonyms for, and then you go and replace those particular synonyms. Well, one thing we know about the English language is context, and even though 2 words can be synonyms of each other, one thing that we don't get taught very much in school is the context of each of those particular words. So you could very easily change the meaning of a sentence. And this happens all the time in spinning software. And once that meaning of that sentence has been changed, that article then doesn't make sense. Well, if it doesn't make sense, you don't have quality content anymore. We're always trying to create quality content. When you don't have quality content, it's not content that's being shared. It's not being read. Well, these are signals that the search engines ultimately look at, is how valuable and how authoritative is a particular content. So in other words, spinning software is 100% waste of time. It's a waste of money. And in fact, you run the risk of exposure. There's a certain, the search engines only allow a certain tolerance of shitty links, put it bluntly. Okay, when you start spinning software or spinning articles and getting that exposure that's out there, you're increasing your threshold for that. If you surpass that threshold, you're then going to be given penalties. So you've got to be very careful of that. Now, the weekly local business tip this week, I was talking about as a technical overview. I did give a full overview of that, but as I'm going down my notes, I talked a lot about it when I was just intended on just giving you an overview. But just to add to that, I just wanted to tell you about the technical aspects of it. And the software was PowerPoint or Keynote. Camtasia for recording your screen. A microphone. Any type of video equipment, something that's very, very important for video equipment for your business is to have a microphone input. I got a lavalier mic that I got hooked up. The quality is a lot better. And then, of course, a video camera. Now, for this week's update, I'd mentioned how Google's Disavow link tool can remove penalties. This is confirmed from Google, and this has been a question that's been up in the air for quite some time. You got to be careful about using. Why is Scott Meadows just sending me a message right now saying, "Hey, are we still on?" Where did you send that? Oh yeah, never mind, my bad. Scott on the line, are you on the call today? Yeah, there you are. I was just getting a message from you that popped up. I thought maybe we were having problems getting on the call. Want to make sure the members at least can get on the call, right? I digress. Link Disavow tool. Penalties. But yeah, Google, as I'm confirming, Google is confirming that tool can remove the penalties that you may have. Be very, very keen and careful and listen to everything that Google Webmaster account tells you about. Google is now explaining why when you create a piece of content, it could jump up and get high rankings right off the bat within a couple of weeks, and then it starts to go down. It's a video put out by Matt Cutts. And Matt goes on and explains, essentially, to make a long story short, is it's a propagation period. It takes time for that search engine to go and collect all the different signals, and it comes down to originality of its source. He gave examples of, say, breaking news when it comes out and somebody says something and certain things, blah, 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 blah. But at a lower level, I really question a lot of his thoughts and opinions on that. I have seen it that, you know, I put up a new page onto a local business website, it gets higher rankings, and then over a few weeks as it starts to go down, it's not like that there's a ton of other signals that exist on the internet. But the relevancy and freshness of that content is likely playing a factor. Facebook nearby, it came out where you could originally search on Facebook for who was close to you, which friends were close to you. Facebook has now rebranded it called Local Search, as simple as that. It's a great tool for finding local businesses. You see what Facebook's doing here, guys? Have you read about or heard about this new product called Facebook Home, or this idea that Facebook's got a phone that's out, or the Facebook phone? I mean, there's no such, Facebook doesn't have a phone. Facebook does not have operating software. What they've got is they've partnered with manufacturers, and they're running a highly modified version of Google's Android operating system and put a Facebook skin over top of it for heavy social users. Well, why Facebook is doing this? They tell us it's to enhance the user experience and have control over the user experience for their heavy users. But on the other hand, look at it from a perspective of some of their biggest competitors. Well, who is their biggest competitor? Is Google. Google's got an operating system. This takes me back 20 years ago or 25 years ago when Microsoft was embattled, and they had the antitrust lawsuits for putting their Internet Explorer operating system or on their operating system. And you know, back in the early 90s when the internet first came out, the Internet Explorers of the world were fought against by other browsers like Netscape, and they won. And that's kind of like Google with their Android operating system and their search functionality. See, Facebook is able to hide the Google search features. It's still there, but the placement of search is right in the prominence of Facebook and utilizing the Facebook search engines? Well, the money is where the businesses are at. So I believe that Facebook needs Facebook Home in order for local search to thrive. The new Google Business Dashboard is available for all users nationwide now. It is completely rolled out. Everybody should have access to it. Make sure that you're familiar with it. Get in there. There's really not a lot that are really changing. They've actually just taken stuff away, clarified how you can pay for stuff and whatnot. And finally, Google Local, or mobile signals actively used in local rankings. Well, like any of the factors, it comes down to speculation. And we have to speculate as to whether or not certain social signals or certain signals are being used. And so the question becomes, are mobile signals being used for local businesses, like, say, payment gateways? And they can understand that. Or what about reviews or check-ins? This is something that we've argued for a long time. For example, the velocity of reviews. If a business consistently gets 5 reviews a week, every single week for an entire year, their business is probably fairly stagnant. They're probably bringing in a certain amount of new business. If a majority of their reviews are consistently positive and every once in a while off the wall they get a negative review, those are businesses that I would want to recommend to a friend. Why wouldn't a search engine want to recommend it? We're all friends, right? That would be a good business to recommend. Or another business that, you know, demonstrates velocity of a review acquisition, such as all of a sudden gets a whole slew of reviews over a 7-day period. Well, what happened? Are they soliciting reviews? Or did they have a big promotion? You know, there's factors that are involved here. So that in itself, the velocity of review acquisition, could be an extremely strong signal in the mobile. I argue that it's likely being looked at today. As a matter of fact, I think it's bizarre that the local industry doesn't talk about this stuff as much. It was only last year that velocity of review acquisition was actually put in and even considered a factor in the ranking factors. Review velocity acquisition rates, I think could and should be measured. I think they're a very good metric for a local business owner to understand as well. Take that to the next step. So, well, that's going to come to the conclusion of our weekly update. And now I'm going to open the floor to LMS member questions and answers.